and welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. This is our YouTube exclusive, one of 3 space weather videos for the day. The SDO site's on the fritz, but we've still got the data for you. Starting things out at 211 angstroms here. And you can see some well-defined South Pole-oriented coronal holes rotating into the eastern portion of the Earth-facing solar disk. Solar activity has dropped in the past 24. We still do have elevated coronal hole high-speed streams. Let's take a look at the Earth geospace for the last 4 hours. This is our Geospace Magnetosphere movie showing magnetohydrodynamic pressure, otherwise known as nanopascals would be the units. It's modeled by the Space Weather Modeling Framework, and we've seen a reduction here in pressure apparently over the past couple of hours. How about ground magnetic perturbations? We showed the magnetic moment from space. Here's Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. The units here expressed are nanotesla, magnetic flux density, and like the last movie, it will be the last 4 hours. Planetary K index at 2. It's a geomagnetic calm condition. We saw a brief period of geomagnetic unrest last night. Perhaps some auroral photographs showing up. Let's check out Twitter later in the day to see what we find. And let us know in the comments what you think of the pathetic censorship on social media sites and associated with big tech in general. Let us know what you think of the pathetic censorship on social media. We recently saw a changeover of the data here. This is the switch from the Discover to the ACE. Those are 2 spacecraft located at Lagrangian point 1, about 1 million miles away from the Earth at a gravitational equilibrium point to measure the solar wind. You got to measure it from outside the Earth's magnetosphere, otherwise you're not going to get an appropriate number. And this sudden change here is a shift in the instrument used. So again, you can see the blue line here at the bottom switching to green. That would be the changeover from the Discover to the ACE. So the ACE showing really low solar wind density here, maybe a little suspect. I would also note that the solar wind speed yesterday got up to around where I forecasted it to be, a little over 600 kilometers per second, and a slight reduction in the solar wind density. The signature feature of a coronal hole high-speed stream. Also, the plasma temperature dropped down here. Anyway, the current report is about 1.5 protons per cubic centimeter for the solar wind density. Solar wind speed 548 kilometers per second. Again, we've had an overall reduction of solar activity since yesterday. The radial flux is now down to 166 solar flux units, and we're seeing some spiky readings here on the GOES magnetometer, and some low readings, so we can expect those to continue for the next day or so. And the reason I say that is because I know how to read the Gong 2 data. So that's the last 3 days of the GOES magnetometers. They measure the magnetic field around Earth from a geosynchronous near equatorial orbit. Next, we'll look at the heliospheric current sheet and its polarity. This gives us some insight. And these areas right here will continue to provide relatively low readings on the GOES magnetometer through tomorrow. In other words, through tomorrow, when we view tomorrow's video, you'll see that these are you'll see lower highs and lower lows than we saw in the previous couple of days. Anyway, that's the heliospheric current sheet. Earth remains in a South Pole-oriented current sheet shown here in red. North Pole current sheet over here in green. As the solar cycle progresses, there's the line of sight view. Lots of magnetic activity there, especially in the northern hemisphere. Next, we'll move to coronal holes. Here is the coronal hole line of sight plot. It shows the sun's B field in blue, and you can see that solar polar field progression occurring there. These well-defined South Pole-oriented coronal holes will become geo-effective in a few days, as they are spewing out a high-speed coronal hole wind stream. If you're wondering what that consists of, it's diffuse gas primarily hydrogen nuclei, also helium nuclei, electrons, and other heavy elements, which we call metals when it comes to astrophysics. Everything more massive than helium on the periodic chart is considered a metal in terms of astrophysics. So here's a visualization from the SDO. This is extreme ultraviolet, 193 angstroms. And you can see some of those well-defined South Pole-oriented coronal holes. They'll become more and more well-defined as they rotate in closer to the Earth. And let's move to sunspots. We've still got quite a few. The likelihood of major solar flares is still very high, especially because of sunspot 3014. It's still a gigantor. It may have degraded a little bit since yesterday. Don't count it out to produce major flares. There are some other beta gamma class sunspots as well. I think 3019 is beta gamma class, but the SDO site's down, so we're having a little trouble getting high-res imagery. Perhaps we'll make another video later today if it becomes relevant. So here's a visualization. You can see sunspot 3014 has been mostly stable over the past 24 hours. Again, we've seen a minor reduction in solar activity here. The radial flux now down to 166 solar flux units, having made it all the way up to 180, which was higher than any monthly smooth values that we saw in solar cycle 24. A couple years ahead of schedule for that. Make sure you follow us on Twitch if you haven't. YouTube viewers, press like and subscribe if you enjoy the content on YouTube, but don't forget to subscribe to Twitch. There's a great mobile app as well over there, and you'll see when the Smash News Network goes live. We're most likely to go live on Twitch because we're usually just set up to do that. It's a little bit more of a headache for us to go live on YouTube, but in any case, we do that occasionally as well. Twitch.tv/SmashOMatch. If you want to support the channel, become a member of the Smash team. Gold and silver subscribers get the GDAX daily reports, as well as other content that nobody else gets to see. So throw us a couple bucks at the silver or gold level, or if you prefer the gold annual paid-up subscription level, that's actually the best value. It includes some complimentary merch. We'll talk about merch next, like the Galactic Federation Special Forces. So I'm wearing the shirt now, and I would say to you, Universum Liberate. There it is. Fantastic design. The symbolism is about signal strength and security, and galactic scale instantaneous reach, and the galaxy itself, which is the spiral. So tell your friends and foes, Universum Liberate. Perhaps it's a conversation starter. Wear it out to your favorite festival. And tell your friends and foes about the Galactic Federation Special Forces. We can't share any more information than that, because there is no information about it, because that's part of what makes Special Forces special. If you're sick of what's going on Earth, and you're sick of what's going on in the solar system, well, join the Galactic Federation. Perhaps you'll have what it takes to become part of the Special Forces. But in any case, help support us, and give Smash staff a raise by proclaiming Universum Liberate. You can find links to it on the homepage as well as below the video. SmashOMatch.com says, welcome to the Neo Renaissance, and so do I. There's the link to the Smash-O merch. The Smash team is linkable there as well. You can also find links to the Smash team graphically right there, and as well as the Redbubble page. We also have a Getter link up there, and there's a permanent link to our Discord chat. If you want to send us an instant message, drop us a line on Discord. And let's get back to the space weather. And let's blast through some more data here. It's the GOES proton flux over the past 3 days. No spikes in that. No major flares over the past 24 hours. Just some C-class intensifications. Except for this M-class. There was an M 3.0. Besides that, only C-class intensifications. But it is important to note that the sun is basically at a background sea-level X-ray output. So those aren't really flares, that area there. That's just X-ray output. And that's what you get when you've got lots of sunspots in the earthly-facing portion. So here's what's going on. 131 angstroms is a great wavelength to view solar flares. It takes 10 images per minute instead of only 2 like most of the other wavelengths. And that is part of the extreme ultraviolet spectrum as well. Some fantastic imagery there from the SDO with its high-res capabilities. Next, we've got a star chart for you. We like people to be oriented. This is where things are above my head. We're located in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. And this chart is the all-sky chart. Just click on that top section there where it says Charts and select the all-sky chart after putting in your location. It'll tell you what's going on above your head as well. The yellow line is the ecliptic. That's the path the sun takes across the sky. The blue line is the galactic plane. How about a solar system forecast? Let's do it. There's where things will be in a week. We'll be approaching a new moon in 1 week, as all the planets gather on one side of the solar system and frighten people because they don't understand planetary physics. Next, looking at coronagraphs. We'll look at the stereo A coronagraph located here at Lagrange 5 and the Soho-Lasco C3. I think I said yesterday that it's the Discover. The Discover and the ACE measure the solar wind. The Soho is what includes the Lasco coronagraphs. That's what you see here on the right. That's the Soho-Lasco C3, and on the left you see stereo A. That's the stereo A Core 2 space weather beacon. And at the moment, we don't really see any Earth-directed coronal mass ejections. A couple little, tiny little bits of ejecta coming out there. Nothing to really write home about. Nothing likely to have any sort of a significant geomagnetic impact. And let's just show this one as well. That's just today's data so far. And as you can see, there are some CMEs here. This left side imagery has some analysis as well, some like automated analysis built into that, which is great. And we'll close out with the 171 angstroms SDO imagery for the last 24 hours. It's my personal favorite, and it's time to close out this video, so thanks for tuning in to the Daily Space Weather. May that solar wind be at your back. Opinions expressed in this video, not necessarily the opinions of Smash News Network, least posted name.